You cannot improve your customers' experiences by relying on the processes and the systems you've used for years. And if you don't believe me, rewind the tape over the last 12 months to see how COVID has shifted your customers' behaviors forever. We're going to be covering a topic that is beginning to surface in the world of B2B business, thanks to what we're learning in the B2C world, and especially in the direct-to-consumer world, which is this so-called need for speed. So let's talk today about the need for speed. You know, there is a lot of new behaviors coming out of the pandemic, new behaviors that some we are proud of, such as we are spending more time with people we love, we're getting outside more. But when it comes to buying products and services, there are also some new expectations that are surfacing. Have you ever noticed when you go online and you want to order your hair color, for example? I know I'm a Madison Reed fan. Oh my goodness, if I have to wait more than 4 seconds for that order to be fulfilled, it's awful, right? You start to worry more about, oh my goodness, is there something wrong with my network? Is there something wrong with their system? And it's quite funny how we're responding now to, and how our expectations of great customer engagement, great customer service have really changed overnight. So what I did is I set out with my partner, Michael Taylor, and we started a study about 2 months ago. And we went out and we've been talking with some amazing leaders around the United States who have a great reputation and a great brand. So we've been able to talk to organizations as small as 100 employees and as large as companies such as Strategic Education and Time. So it's just been a great journey to find out what are they doing so well that other people can learn from. I think it's important for us to step back and figure out, okay, if we want to deliver value quickly to our customers, where will the worst obstacles be? Like, where are what we call leaky buckets? Where are the holes in our bucket as we look to nurture new leads, close leads, and then keep those customers around for life? So that is the challenge that we're all going to be talking about today. So what I've learned in these first 10 meetings that we have had together, that there are 7 common mistakes or obstacles that people will hit that cause them to really suffer from keeping great customers and keeping them for a while. So here's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be laying out for you the 7 most common mistakes or blind spots that we've uncovered. And as we go through this, I invite you to write them down and think to yourself, okay, which ones of these might be worth investigating in our own organization? So let me start with the first one, which is fixed mindset. A fixed mindset in today's B2B world will prevent you from delivering value quickly to your customers. Now, Carol Dweck, of course, has written best-selling books about the power of having a growth mindset, being curious, being open-minded to change, being flexible, and being able to make changes on the fly. Thankfully for us, nowadays, common practices around agile development on the software side have now begun to permeate the ethos of many successful marketing organizations. So we're finding that this experimentation spirit is much more prevalent than it was in the past. And that is such good news for you. So what it means is if your organization suffers from the opposite of that, which is the fixed mindset, if you start to notice a culture where people are looking to get everything perfect before it gets launched, or making sure our customer relationship database is perfectly cleaned up before we do anything, or worse yet, making sure that everybody signs off on this, then chances are it's going to be really hard for you to consistently and rapidly deliver value to your customers, and they will go somewhere else. I see this all the time. Now, I also know we have a lot of great people that join us on these live streams who run small businesses, consulting firms, advisory firms. The same thing is true for you. This isn't just about a company the size of Procter and Gamble or Salesforce, where they have really done some deep thinking around rapid customer value delivery. This is true even if you run a one-person consultancy and you're looking at ways to reduce the friction. So again, if you find yourself with your content strategy constantly holding back and saying, I can't send this blog post yet, I need to tweak it another 5 weeks before it goes out, chances are you are suffering from a fixed mindset. So that's number one. Let's talk about number two, execution versus excellence. This is such a great distinction. So do you find yourself in a state of focusing exclusively on project execution or project excellence? So this is the interesting part of being a leader, right? If for those of you watching this who are marketing leaders, CMOs, CEOs, it's really a delicate balance, isn't it? You have to be able to live kind of in both worlds. We need to deliver an excellent experience to our customers, but we also have to make our numbers this quarter. This is a built-in, shall I say, a built-in problem with the Western economies, capitalist economies that are so short-term driven. We need to hit our numbers this month or this quarter, maybe at the expense of getting good customers. I was talking to a client of mine in the nonprofit space, and they have been around for nearly 100 years. But recently, the CEO announced that they were going to grow much faster than they have in the past, and they needed to add a significant amount of additional revenue and members. And the CEO kind of just told the head of sales, go buy customers, go get names and go buy and bribe customers. So they wanted to improve the execution part of the machine, but they were really sacrificing the excellent customer experience that was necessary for them to stick around. So you guys have probably seen this with some companies who are in the publishing business that will say, well, we're going to offer you $4 a month for our magazine. And if you act now, you'll get a free fill in the blanks, right? We'll send you a free picture frame or something of that nature for signing up with us, or a free wireless speaker, whatever the bribe is. It doesn't necessarily inculcate positive long-term customer habits. So it's something for you to think about as you're putting together and living within the tension of operational excellence or execution and great customer experience. So not living in that dance and being able to find that balance can be very risky for you. Number three is tradition. Tradition can really, really work against you. I have a client that is extremely accustomed to getting everybody involved in the decision making. Our tradition here in this company is that when it's time for us to launch a new service for our customers, we make sure that we put together a team of 20 or more people. We have lots of meetings, and we've got to make sure that everybody is on board before we get this product launch or this service. So while consensus building is a great way to gain longer term commitment to whatever new product or service launch or customer initiative it is that you're launching, it's a great concept and it does have legs. The bad news is that time is your enemy in that scenario. It really is. The other thing I want to say about this is that if your tradition in your organization is all about making sure everybody's on board, we have a family work environment here. I mean, I applaud you, but just know that your competitors will be much more capable of predicting your next move, and you're competitively vulnerable. So, Steph, what we might want to do here is show you a link to an article I wrote about the 7 different decision-making styles on my blog, which is at lisanirell.com/blog. And what we need to do is to have more versatility around how we make decisions about how we're going to deliver great value to our customers. And sometimes I recommend build a team of 5 or 6 people, enough, as they say, I think it's called the 2 pizza rule, right? Amazon coined that really well. If you can serve up 2 pizzas in a meeting or less, then you probably have the right sized team. So think about the 2 pizza box rule. Okay, so that is number 3. Don't let tradition, how you traditionally make decisions, get in your way. Number 4, let's talk for a moment about undervaluing values. Undervaluing your values. Even to this day, I get to talk with hundreds of CMOs every year. And even to this day, CMOs focus a lot of their energy on the demographics of their ideal audience. What is the age? What is the annual income? What is the geographic location of this ideal customer segment or audience? And really, that train has left the station. I say that the 90s called and they want their customer segmentation strategies back. If you follow the work of David Allison, he is the CEO of Value Graphics and a friend of mine who's been on our live streams. He is terrific because what he has done is he has gone out and conducted thousands of surveys to find out what do people care about? What are their core values? And he came up with a list of 56 core values, and then he's starting to rank them by country of people. In other words, as a marketer, I need to know what they care about before I figure out their customer journey, their buying journey, and so forth. It's a very fascinating study. And so again, if you don't follow David Allison on LinkedIn, I highly recommend his work. And his book will be coming out soon. I'd like to pause for a minute too and ask, where so far, based on the 4 areas I've covered, do you think your company might be experiencing some stress fractures, or as some people call it, the leaky bucket? So just to pause for a minute, we've talked about having a fixed mindset, that fear of failure, the perfectionist mindset. Number 2, we've talked about that very delicate dance between execution and excellence. We've talked about tradition and how traditional ways of decision making can really get in your way of actually changing and improving that entire customer experience. We've also talked about undervaluing values and focusing too much on old traditional ways of defining your ideal customer. So great. So let's jump on to number 5. Number 5 is fixer obsession. This one comes up a lot. You know, the new role of senior marketing leaders is a very healthy blend of brand ambassador and technology strategist. And you've probably seen this in your own organizations. What it also has cultivated, though, is a bad habit. It's a bad habit to be the fixer in your organization, because there are 3 buckets where you can spend your time. Bucket number 1 is fixing yesterday's chronic issues, right? Maybe you inherited the job from someone else and there were some problems you had to clean up. Bucket number 2 is dealing with the day-to-day activities, maybe all the, dealing and cleaning out all the chat in your Slack channel. Or maybe it is dealing with your emails and getting through your day-to-day meetings behind Zoom or Microsoft Teams. Understandable. That's the second bucket. The third bucket that really gets short shrift is designing the future. So if all you do is spend your time focusing on fixing the past, old problems, or dealing with the problems or opportunities today that showed up in your inbox, you're never able to step back and truly be a marketing innovator. And I talk a lot about this in my keynotes and in my private CMO sessions, which we are now hosting virtually. It's incumbent upon us, if you have any leadership role whatsoever, that you need to carve out time on a regular basis to step back and ask, what's next? What's the future? How do I position our team to do something really new and different? Who's our future customer? Not how do we just take care of our existing customers, but what are we going to go and look at to see who our future customer is? So the fixer obsession will stall your career, and, full stop. It will stop your career, because if all you're known for is the woman or the guy who comes in and cleans up everything, and you're like Joe Pesci in Goodfellas, the fixer or the cleaner, you're never able to step back and remove yourself from the fray and ask what's next and what if, what about. You cannot improve your customers' experiences by relying on the processes and the systems you've used for years. And if you don't believe me, rewind the tape over the last 12 months to see how COVID has shifted your customers' behaviors forever. So I will not fixate on fixer obsession, but you can tell I get worked up about it. So let's talk about number 6. Number 6, neglecting nurturing. I've had such great conversations with Michael Taylor and leaders from so many different industries around this. And one of my favorite questions that I'm happy to also challenge you on is, when does nurturing of your customer begin? When should it begin? I actually have some clients who really don't spend much time nurturing until after a lead actually comes in, or after a customer actually signs up and pays. So this can be very risky for you. You're missing out on opportunities to seek out new opportunities, figure out who your new customer is, and really cultivate some new relationships you otherwise wouldn't be able to cultivate. So one of the things I would invite you to look at as a marketing leader is to say, how are we budgeting our funds right now when it comes to the brand building and the lead generation aspects of our business? Before COVID, maybe your budget looked a certain way, but now that we're still in the middle of COVID, we're not out of it yet, and future customers are waiting for us. We may not even know who they are. Now is a good time to step back and say, when should nurturing begin? And where might we consider nurturing that we have not in the past? So one of my clients has been heavily investing in nurturing after the customer signs up on their website and purchases a membership. But the truth of the matter is that there are people out there in that universe. Their ideal customer is in the millions, so it's a pretty large organization. There are things they could be doing to create brand awareness and interest and to help people start to subscribe to their information much sooner. So don't neglect nurturing. Now, one of my favorite aphorisms, when the water is low, the rocks appear. Speaking with the chief marketing officer and chief product officer of a very successful company out of Atlanta, Georgia, Jeff Perkins, really brought this home for me. And we were speaking with him recently, and he said that during the downturn, we could not leave any customer behind. So for those of you looking for some ways to automate that process and maybe create some nurturing conversations with people before they become a customer, one of the products that he recommended is called Braise, Braze. And it helps you create a sequence of messaging across multiple areas, whether that is text messaging or SMS, email, and other methods of communicating with that prospective customer, just to remind them that, hey, we noticed that you downloaded our app, but you didn't enter your payment information. So again, this is a great way to make sure that no stone is left unturned and that every customer or interested customer is noticed. So see if there are some MarTech tools and some nurturing campaigns that you can put in place to address this. Great comment from Drew. The value of a day is huge for startups. Any company in rapidly changing markets win with rapid execution and excellent customer experience. Yeah, it is that great balance, isn't it, Drew? Because for a startup, and I've worked for a few myself, the number one goal in a startup, after you've figured out a few potential ideal customer profiles, is to go close business. Getting those early adopters, those early fans on board, and making sure they're willing to be references, because those become your early salespeople, don't they? So you do absolutely have to focus on cultivating great relationships with those early customers so that they are your Pied Pipers. There's no shortcut around that. And it's going to be very interesting when it comes to, as you look out across the coming year or so, at some of the fast movers in the space. Look at ones who are expanding their vertical footprint so that they can nurture customers across a broader set of touch points. You could argue, yes, Netflix is a really successful company. What did they spend? $90 billion on production of new content. I mean, the numbers are so staggering. And the good news is they own the relationship with me, the customer. But what about all of the manufacturers of components for printers or companies that make products that are embedded in devices like Apple or Samsung or other types of devices you and I are using on a daily basis? This is a problem because the direct-to-consumer model is touching and affecting and influencing how customers think and how they want to be treated. So if you are the manufacturer of a really breakthrough product that's embedded into an Apple device, for example, and you don't have any direct interaction with the end user, how are you going to develop a very balanced paid, earned, and owned media and social strategy going forward? With what we're seeing right now, and again, I don't mean to be an alarmist, but with the rapid shutting of the door and protection of our privacy on platforms such as Google and Facebook and even Apple, the faster you get to having direct conversations with your customers, with your end customers, the more successful you are going to be post-pandemic. I can't stress this enough. And I am on a tear right now, even in my own business, to make sure that I am capturing opt-in emails of people who are in my ideal client space. And thankfully, we have a strong following of subscribers, and I know I could help even more people. So I'm spending less time worrying about being featured in Forbes and more time worrying about how do I take care of the 14,000 followers that I have who have raised their hand and said, I want to follow the work you're doing. So if you are one of those companies that sells something really cool, but you don't know who your end customer is and you just don't have any relationship with them, this is a very vulnerable time for you. So go ask permission to cultivate those types of relationships. Do not neglect nurturing. Okay, so your provocateur has one more for you before we wrap today, and that is number 7. Number 7 is all around silos. Silos can make or break a smooth, seamless customer experience. I have seen it time and time again. Now, silos could be because you're geographically far apart from your employer or from other departments. Maybe you're a global organization and the silos just naturally appear. But, as we look at who in your organization interacts in some way, shape, or form with the customer, as a marketing leader, it is incumbent upon you to find a way to understand that universe of other people who touch the customer and get them involved in any conversations that you're having around delivering value faster to your best customers. Jeff Perkins of Park Mobile does this really well. He is, again, not only the CMO, but also the Chief Product Officer. And he said, one of our secrets to success is, he says, I have very regular meetings with the customer service people. And I want to make sure that I really tap into their wisdom. Their background is not in customer service. They actually come from the transportation, smart cities, and parking industry. So when they get a call and it's a positive call or it's a complaint, the customer can relate really well to them. But he says, we get so many great ideas about how to improve our apps, how to be more effective, and to find out, which touch points are getting the most stickiness. He said the customer service people are great. When I was speaking with Phil Kiken, who was the former head of an innovation incubator at TD Ameritrade, I heard a very similar story. And he said that they were able to create a product that ended up doing very well before Charles Schwab purchased TD Ameritrade. And he said, part of the reason that we were successful is we worked so hard at making sure that we stopped and paused and we celebrated success across all the departments who made a difference, who contributed to the success of that early test of the product. And he said it didn't matter if they were in our group or they were part of the mothership, but the important thing was that people got recognized. Again, going back to the discussion we had earlier about being the fixer. if your mindset is, I'm looking for problems, I got to go fix some problems, what happens is we get blinders and we forget that we need to catch people doing something right just as much as we need to catch problems. So again, think about that. How can I get other departments involved in celebrating our success and give credit where credit is due? Another thing too is I give kudos to one of my other clients in the nonprofit world. They have a number of KPIs, key performance indicators, that ostensibly would be conflicting with one another, but they really aren't. They not only look at new revenue, top line revenue, net new customers, they also look at the net promoter score. They also look at the shift in customer lifetime value. And so to have kind of a healthy tension between these various KPIs is not a bad thing. Just make sure that if you have a sales team that's driven to get out there and close new deals, that they're also rewarded on closing deals with the best ideal customers. There you have it, folks. I've covered 7 areas. I really want to challenge you and have you think about, where are the sticky points? Where are we slowing down and not delivering value quickly to our perfect customers? We talked about fixed mindset. We talked about not being balanced between execution and excellence. We also talked about overcoming traditional thinking. It can get in your way, and as well as undervaluing values, the fixer obsession, mostly in Western culture where I see this, neglecting nurturing and asking the questions around, when does nurturing really begin? And finally, breaking down silos. We've got to take a look at silos and have a more inclusive look at how do we better serve our customers. So those are the 7 areas I invite you to look at. And if it's too overwhelming, just pick one and start asking some questions around these key areas with your teams. Until then, be mindful, get outside, and please get vaccinated. Bye.